So, as far as I can see, we are here dealing with procurement, amendments to the procurement legislation. And I am showing you that this PNM, who broke the law and have us here to validate, they have a history of doing so and breaking down the principles of corporate governance and best practice. Because where even in the Central Tenders Board Act of 1960, or the Special Purpose Company or the Ministry of Finance rules, there was never ever in the history of Trinidad and Tobago any element where a committee of ministers will be allowed to procure goods and services. This PNM put together a ministerial committee to procure the Galleon's Passage. It was supposed to be a lease of a fast ferry, but they purchased a slow boat to nowhere for 120 million. This is why procurement legislation is very important and why we must not support the validation of the breaking of the law of the PNM, because you give them an inch, they take a billion. So let me just read.
The member's been talking about validation for 10 minutes now. Tedious.
Let me also go quickly as I'm running out of time. And let me go to the Hansard. There's a lot of research to show the independent senators that this PNM never wanted procurement. So let me go back to the debate of the appropriation bill, September 2009, when the PNM was in government. The Honorable Patrick Manning, Minister for San Fernando East, was a Prime Minister. Member for Point 14 is now here interrupting me. But let's go back to that debate. And let's see what the leader of the opposition at that time, the Honorable Bastio Pandey, had to say. He said, and I quote, "Under the heading Procurement Reform, the Prime Minister promised," and I quote, Prime Minister meaning the PNM Prime Minister, "to further ensure transparency and accountability and good governance, this government is undertaking a personal reform of its procurement process." This is 2009, 14 years ago. Wow. Okay. A personal reform of its procurement process. The imperative for reform centers on the need for good governance, public confidence in the integrity of the procurement process, conformity with informal international best practice, and the regional and international developments. Prevailing deficiencies in the legal regulatory framework, human resource limitations, and lack of regularity oversight further add to the urgency for the new objective and comprehensive approach to the government's acquisition of goods and services. Urgency, says Basdio Pandey, urgency was the Prime Minister's description. Then with great fanfare, he revealed a green paper on the reform of the government's procurement regime dated 2004, which was out for public
Point of order. 46.1. The member is regaling us with a history on procurement when we are here to deal with 6 clauses. That's what it is. 6, yes. Not to be regaled about the history of procurement in Trinidad.
I stated just before, when it applies to relevance, the history is a bit much. However, can you just tie it in a little quickly?
Tying it in, and it must be painful for the member who sat there, because this shows that these 2 orders that came in May, because the government didn't know that CARICOM was turning 50, and they had to rush and then do orders and get advice from the Attorney General to break the law, that we are now called here to validate the breaking of the law. I am showing that the PNM's track record is to not have procurement legislation. They want to return to us not having procurement legislation, just like some editorials. That's why they're attacking the Guardian, because the Guardian remembers this. They remember the track record of the PNM when it comes to procurement. So it may be painful for them to hear, but this is fact. This is Hansard. So I will continue. Thank you. Urgency was the Prime Minister's description. Then with great fanfare, he revealed a green paper on the reform of government's procurement regime, dated 2004, which was out for public comment and which listed a series of recommendations. With a straight face, he told the country, implementation of the new procurement regime is implementation. I sat quietly while the Minister of Finance waffled. I don't know why he's interrupting me.
That's because we are all hoping that you bring it to a point.
This is a funny joke, Vice President.
I don't think it's a funny. Senator. Senator, you have 8 minutes remaining. You need to take out the fluff and bring it into relevance. No. I am on my legs. I am on my legs. It is silence when I'm on my legs. I'm asking you in parliamentary terms to keep your point relevant and to desist from the straying away with the historical lesson. You have made your point. Do you have another point to bring?
You would apologize for describing it as
Senator Roberts.
Excuse me.
Senator Roberts, I am on my legs once again. I ask that you keep your contributions relevant and you tie it in to the bill and the amendments at hand.
Thank you, sir. The bill comes here to validate the illegal actions of this government, who broke the law with the procurement legislation that was eventually passed here. Right? The
Point of
PNM
order. 53(1)B. We heard this already.
The member has brought up tedious repetition. You have reiterated that point many a time.
Because you all keep standing, sir.
But we have heard it. If I sit back down, you're going to say it again. I ask that you move on, please.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Finance said in this Honorable Senate that the procurement legislation passed in 2015 by the Kamla Persad-Bissessar government sought to put such stringent laws as developed countries, and that Trinidad and Tobago is not ready for such brilliance, such amazing. We are not able to reach those standards. The United National Congress says that we totally reject that statement by the PNM and the Minister of Finance. We in Trinidad and Tobago can ascribe to the highest levels of procurement, propriety, and merit throughout. And to make that argument that we are somehow, and I heard the Honorable Attorney General talk about us and describe us as some jungle and swinging. I didn't understand where he was going with that. But I can say that for a government and a Minister of Finance to come here and tell the population that we are not good enough to have stringent first world procurement so that we could stop thieving, I have a problem with the PNM government on that point. They say that they made a mistake. They made an error. It was oversight. It was poor drafting, but they didn't make the law, but we're going to validate. But yet they come here with arrogance and hubris. When one makes a mistake, or when there's oversight, or they made an error, one should come and say, mea culpa. We are sorry. We humbly ask you to help us get out of the morass that we have found ourselves in. Could you please assist us? But not this PNM. They break the law. They got the procurement. They procure and spend people money illegally. We don't know how much, we don't know where it went, to whom and by whom and what we got for it. They came in the parliament, and when they were asked a question downstairs about the conference that told us that crime is a public health thing, like you need a vaccine to stop gun, they came and told us it was 1.3 million. We later found out 2 weeks later it was 3.4 million. They're telling us about 9 million, but 20 million was approved. Is it 20 million? Is it 50 million? Is it 100 million? We need to know where the taxpayers' money went, where the money gone. Who spent it? They attacked the Guardian editorial, and the Honorable Minister of Finance said, and he took umbrage to the words that it is sinister. Well, I put it to you here in the Senate that it is sinister beyond belief that the PNM claims the 50th anniversary of CARICOM snuck up on them. It is sinister beyond belief that the PNM spent taxpayers' money contrary to the law. It is sinister beyond belief that the Minister of Finance, on the advice of the Honorable Attorney General, would surreptitiously, secretly produce 2 illegal orders, 164 and 206. It is sinister beyond belief that the PNM will be terrified and vehemently opposed and allergic to strong erstwhile procurement legislation. Up to 1 million, they say, is small thing. I say small thief or big thief, same thief. In many other countries, the independent commissioners of police, they have independent commissioner of police, they have independent public service, they have well-staffed and fully funded DPP's office. So when they compare some of the stringent legislation or some of the authority to procure without limit at certain levels, those countries have systems and independent institutions that are functioning. In this country, under the PNM, all independent institutions have been infected with Balize poison, whether it is the Commissioner of Police, the Integrity Commission, across the board. So we need legislation that is strong, that an independent procurement regulator could monitor the activities of the PNM. The Minister of Finance said he gave us an example of the World Trade Organization, but the World Trade Organization never envisaged a government like the PNM. They cannot even fathom this sort of impropriety. They cannot fathom that an Attorney General would go into a foreign jurisdiction and sign a document that is full of falsehoods. They could not understand that a Prime Minister will go to Australia with his #1 sidekick and visit 2 different companies, pretend that it's procurement, tell them to tender to the very minister. The minister will look over it and say that one company bid less than the other. Call the company whose bid was higher, alert them of the secret information of the other company, and then boast that he saved the country money and hand out 1 vessel here and 1 vessel there like it's dinner mint. Only in Trinidad and Tobago do we have the impropriety of the PNM. And now you come here to tell us vote to legitimize their legal act. We in the UNC say no. We wait for August 14th and we wait for an election to get rid of them. They have a history of corruption as long as the party from 1956 through now, and it's getting worse under Diego Martin West. So the population has heard today as they try to interrupt. We have seen that an Attorney General has turned the Senate into St. Anne's, and we say on August 14th, we will get rid of each and every one of the PNM across Trinidad. Thank you very much.
Yeah.